India's Chandrayaan-3 enters lunar orbit in step closer to Moon rover soft landing. India's Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft has successfully entered the lunar orbit, marking a major milestone in its mission to land a rover on the Moon. The spacecraft, which was launched on July 22nd, performed a maneuver to reduce its speed and insert itself into an elliptical orbit around the Moon. The spacecraft will perform several more maneuvers to lower its orbit and prepare for the landing, which is expected to take place in September. India hopes to become the fourth country to achieve a soft landing on the Moon, after the US, Russia, and China. Niger military deploys reinforcements to capital after ignoring deadline to cede power. Niger's junta has refused to restore the ousted president or form a transitional government, despite a regional ultimatum that expired on Monday. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has threatened to impose sanctions and use military force if the coup leaders do not comply. The junta has deployed troops and armored vehicles to the capital Niamey, amid fears of a possible intervention by ECOWAS forces. China praises Ukraine talks in Saudi that Russia said were doomed to fail. China has welcomed the talks between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Riyadh, saying they were conducive to regional peace and stability. The talks, which focused on energy cooperation and investment, were criticized by Russia as a provocation and doomed to fail. Russia has been accused of backing separatist rebels in eastern Ukraine and annexing Crimea in 2014. Ukraine says it's foiled assassination plot against Zelensky. Ukraine's security service says it has arrested a group of suspects who plan to assassinate President Volodymyr Zelensky during his visit to Kharkiv on Tuesday. The suspects allegedly had explosives, firearms, and a drone. The security service says the plot was orchestrated by Russian intelligence agents, who offered the suspects $40,000 for the killing. Slovenia floods kill at least 6 and worst natural disaster to ever hit the country, says PM. Slovenia has declared a state of emergency after heavy rains caused severe flooding and landslides across the country. At least 6 people have died and dozens have been injured. Prime Minister Janez Janša said the floods were the worst natural disaster to ever hit Slovenia and estimated the damage at hundreds of millions of euros. Ukraine replaces Soviet-era hammer and sickle symbol with a trident on Kyiv statue. Ukraine has replaced the Soviet-era emblem of a hammer and sickle with a trident, the national coat of arms, on a giant statue in Kyiv. The 102-meter-high Motherland Monument, which depicts a woman holding a sword and a shield, was built in 1981 to commemorate the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. Extreme weather forces teenagers to leave World Scout Jamboree campsite in South Korea. More than 30,000 teenagers from around the world have been evacuated from their campsite at the World Scout Jamboree in South Korea due to extreme weather conditions. The organizers said heavy rain, strong winds, and high temperatures posed a risk to the safety and health of the participants. Deadly floods hit China's major grain-producing region, fueling food security concerns. China is facing another round of devastating floods that have affected millions of people and damaged crops in its major grain-producing region. The floods, triggered by torrential rains, have hit Henan province, which accounts for about 10% of China's wheat and corn output. Niger's coup leaders face a deadline to cede power. Will military action come next? Niger's coup leaders are facing mounting pressure from regional and international actors to hand over power to a civilian-led transitional government. The junta, which seized power on August 18th after ousting President Mahamadou Issoufou, has rejected a deadline set by ECOWAS to restore constitutional order by Monday or face sanctions and possible military intervention. Cambodia's king approves nomination of Hun Manet as next prime minister. Cambodia's king Norodom Sihamoni has approved the nomination of Hun Manet, the eldest son of longtime Prime Minister Hun Sen, as his successor. Hun Manet, who is also the commander of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces, will take over as prime minister after his father steps down in 2028.